Travelling along at 60 miles an hour, avoiding all the flashy, shining cars, all were dashing quickly to and fro. It was then I noticed a man upon the road with his guitar and his bedroll. I began to wonder where he was going. Travelling man, travelling man, you keep on travelling on the road, going through life all on your own. Sometimes you must get very weary.
Hello again and welcome to the Vision Channel. I'm Ron Jones. I have a very special guest for this program. His name is Hans Myrvold, and Hans comes from Norway. But the thing of great interest about his story is how he felt that God laid upon his heart the need of persecuted Christians in Russia. And God showed him exactly what he had to do. And Hans carried out what he felt was God's plan for his life. And in that way, you'll see how he was able to help meet the need of some of those Christians in that country where there was terrible persecution at that particular time. Hans, welcome to the Vision Channel. It's great to have you with us again.
Thank you very much.
Now, I'd like you to take us back to your early days in the old homestead with your mum and your dad. Tell me just a little bit about that.
Well, I was brought up in a Christian home.
Yes.
Born some kilometers outside of Oslo.
Yeah.
And grown up at that place in a church, together with my father and my mother.
Yes.
So that is my childhood.
Yeah. Did they have trouble with you as a boy, or were you?
No. I was a kind boy all the time.
You were an angel.
Yeah.
Were you? It changed
like
later on in life, but you were an angel to start with.
Okay.
All right. How did you get on in school?
Well, I was good in practical works, but not in theoretical things.
Yeah. When you say practical works, what kind of practical works?
Well, I was very much interested in history and in geography.
Geography,
Yes.
yeah.
And in carpeting.
Were you?
Yes.
Did you have any idea about printing then?
Not at all.
Not at all.
It never came into my mind.
Never came. Now, all right, take us on to your teenage years. How did you manage your teenage years?
That was a difficult time because I was 12 when the war came to Norway. The Germans occupied our country.
Yeah.
And I was 17.
How did that affect you at 12 years of age when the Germans came in?
Well, we didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And I heard the siren.
Yeah.
And suddenly this airplane came up. And we saw through the window, we could see these black airplanes.
Yes.
And suddenly they start to bomb. And so we went down to the cellar and we heard only this smelling. And when we came up again, I lived nearby an airport.
Yeah, you lived by an airport.
Nearby.
Yeah.
And when we came up again, we could see that all the houses was gone. So that was a high experience.
Yeah. What was the airport destroyed as well?
That was destroyed. All of it was destroyed. But when the German came, they built it up again and made it bigger and more effective.
Norway was occupied for 5 years, is that
5 years.
right? How did you do? You were 12 when it started and probably 17?
Well, in the beginning, it was very exciting when these troops came with the German soldiers with another language. So they were very kind in the beginning, and there was no war in our area.
No.
No fighting in our area. But after some month, they start to press the people.
Yeah.
That was a hard time, and it was harder and harder after this war was going on.
Did you have difficulty in getting food?
Yes. After some few months, it became difficult with food.
Did it?
So in the end of the war, there wasn't food at all.
Wasn't there?
So I had to go to the farmers and try to get some food.
Now, you'd suffered occupation by the Germans for 5 years, and then suddenly it all changed. How did you feel? What emotions were there when the end of the occupation came?
When the occupation ended,
Yes.
it was the freedom.
Yes.
That was a time you never forget. We were so happy when the war was over, and we saw this English soldiers came, Americans, and there was a freedom you can't imagine how it was.
Can I ask you this? Has that part of your life had any mark on your life at all?
Oh, I'm thinking of this very often.
Yeah.
So it marks you in your mind, and you were thinking of this. Things is coming up again. You have dreams, and you have nightmares sometimes, and
Yeah.
So we were bombarded. This airport where I lived nearby was bombarded 3 times. Once by the Germans,
Yeah.
a night by the British, and a day in '44 by the Americans.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'd like to know a little bit about your teenage years, and did you think about what you wanted to do in the future, career or job-wise?
No, that is something I have been thinking about, because I didn't have any plan for the future. My wish was that to be a carpenter.
Was it?
Yeah, with furniture.
Yeah.
But the plan changed, because I was when I get 18, I was interested to be a advertising man.
Yeah.
So that became my.
So was that how you started your business? How old were you when you commenced your business then?
When my education is advertising.
Yes.
And I started my business when I was 27 years of age.
Yes. How did you go about starting your own business, and where did you start it?
That was not with printing.
That was advertising.
That was yes, it's
Yeah,
commercial.
Yes.
Commercial artists.
Yeah. Did
So
you?
I
Were you on
started
your own? Did you start?
absolutely alone.
Yeah.
I started with in a little room in a cellar in a building in Oslo,
Yeah.
and I had 3 customers. And
Yes.
for 1 year, my wife earned enough money
To keep you.
to keep both of us.
That's-
But that was the beginning. And
Yeah.
after a year, I had more customers, and it went well on.
I remember, Hans, the first time we met. It was in The Hague, and I just had a heart attack, and it was my first preaching appointment, and Kath and I went out onto the green, and there was this strange fellow out there. He was doing the same. Do you remember that?
I do remember.
And you came
I
on.
heard that you were the superintendent of the Elim movement in England,
Yeah.
and I thought that he is the man that I can get in contact with to be interested in Russia.
Yeah. And I said to you, no, I haven't thought about Russia. Why should I? And what did you tell me? Can you remember?
I think I told you about the condition for the Christians in Soviet Union, because I have been there since 74. My first trip was in 74, and learned to know the conditions for the people, the pressure they lived under, and the help we could do for them. And the help we could do from Norway was good, but it wasn't enough. So I thought if some other countries could be interested, that would be nice.
Yes. And the first thing that you did was to get prayer going in the churches in Norway, and you produced a prayer poster, and on that poster the name of the praying church was, and the name of the church for which they prayed.
That's right. We started with prayer for Russia, so that every churches in Norway could take part in this prayer service.
Yes.
So we gave them a poster.
Yeah.
Every church had a poster with a name written on for a city in Soviet Union that they could pray for.
Yeah.
And up till 78, I think that we had about 90 churches in Norway
Praying.
praying for Soviet.
Then we had the same poster done in English. Do you remember that? and I distributed some of those in our country.
Yeah.
And we got quite a number of churches praying here. But that's how it started.
It started with prayer.
Yeah. I'd like you to tell me about your very first visit to the Soviet Union and what you took in with you and why exactly did you go?
I made that first visit. I didn't like to go to Soviet Union because they were a peace disturber for the whole world. We look upon that way.
Yes.
So I wasn't afraid, but I didn't like to go to Russia. But a missionary, Earl Poist, he came to Norway, and he was a Russian missioner, radio missioner, and he sent program via radio.
Yeah.
And he said, you have to go to Russia. And then I thought about it. And one day a missionary from another organization came to me and asked me, do you like to go to Soviet Union? And then I was thinking over this, and I said to myself, this is the time. So we went away. I had some money with me, some US dollars, but no Bibles.
Now, obviously, you must already have become a Christian before God put this on your heart. How old were you when you committed your life to Christ?
I was 43 years of age when I accepted Jesus Christ.
What real difference did that make in your life?
That makes a big difference. For me, I had everything. I had cars, company.
You had success in business.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had 4 children, a wife, happy marriage. Everything was good, but there was a lack in my life. I couldn't...
Did you feel empty?
Yes, I felt empty. So I wonder what it was. And God called upon me. I understand it now, that it was God who called upon my life. And I saw Jesus and God as something up in heaven.
Yeah.
But when I accepted Christ, he came into my heart here.
Yeah.
To feel him.
Yes.
So he became my friend.
Yes.
He became my savior. And he became my king.
Great. That's super. Now, your first visit to Russia, you already intimated you didn't take any Bibles.
Not Bibles. But we understood that I also needed money for buying things in the Berioska, where they can buy things from
for dollars.
Buy in ordinary shops.
And did you go to try and get a feel of the situation in Russia, of the Russian people?
I understood the first day when I came that they lived under the same conditions as we did during the war in Norway.
During the occupation in Norway?
During occupation.
With
the pressure, they were suspicious, very careful. When they understood that we were a foreigner, they wouldn't talk to us because they were afraid they will have trouble if they get in contact with foreigners.
Right. So you went like that. Then the next time you went, you took some Bibles with you.
Next time, because the first Christian who came up in the first meeting, they were taken to in contact with some leaders. They asked for Bibles and study materials for evangelists and preachers.
Yes.
So I decided that next time I would take some Bibles with me. And next time I took some Bibles in my pockets. It was about 12, 15 New Testaments with the Psalms. Not too many, because you can't be too big.
So New Testament and Psalms. Now you came to the place, obviously, where you realized that taking a few Bibles in your pocket was not sufficient to meet the need. So you got a van.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw the need.
Yeah.
And understood that to bring Bibles in the pockets was nothing. Only happy for 1 or 2. So we decided, I and my church decided to buy a van and to rebuild this to a caravan.
Yeah.
With accommodations, of course, and a kitchen and all the equipment you need for
living.
For living.
Yeah.
And also, we built some secret rooms to put Bible into. So if you came into this caravan, you couldn't see there were secret rooms at all, but there were rooms for about 800 Bibles.
Is
this
that
car.
right? Yeah, you must have enjoyed all that. Or
Of
was
course, it was excited in the beginning.
but it was a bit risky, wasn't it?
Certainly, it was big risky. We had a route.
Yeah.
We went through Poland.
Yeah.
No difficulties. We came to Brest. There was control from the Russian soldiers.
But they never discovered anything.
Never discovered that one.
Didn't they?
No, but so we had about 5, 6, 6 trips,
Yeah.
and the 6 trips went wrong. I think that they get suspicious to this car, and KGB followed the car from Brest
Yeah.
to Kiev.
Yeah.
Where we had an appointment with the Christians to came to the camping place
Yeah.
in the evening when it was dark. And then when the Christians came to receive the Bibles, the KGB also came.
Did they?
And they arrested this
Christian leaders.
Christian leader from Russia.
Yeah.
This was in Ukraine, and the drivers was arrested for 2 and 3 days.
Were they? Well, how long did you tell me were the Christian leaders put in prison for?
I think they get 3 and 4 years for that event.
Right. Now.
And the car was confiscated, and it was a lot.
And what did they do with the Bibles that you'd given out to the leaders? Did they get those back?
No, never get them back.
They
take them to a place. I think they burned them up.
They burnt them.
Yeah, and as I told you, the car was confiscated, and that is difficult to prove. The car is confiscated in Russia for the authorities in Norway. So I had to go to this
authorities in
authorities department for foreign affairs.
Yes.
And then they sent to the embassy the Norwegian embassy in Moscow and asked the government in Russia, what about the car? And they confirmed that the car was confiscated by them.
Do you have a copy of that letter anyway?
I have a copy.
Well, we might have a look at that.
Yes.
Now, Hans, you came to the place where you realized that even with the caravan, 800 Bibles a time, you were not taking sufficient in to meet the need. What was your next step?
Yeah, we saw that the need was so big that we got to do something that could bring more Bibles than a car could do.
Yeah.
So we started to have some printing presses running on in the Soviet Union. And that was a special printing method.
Silk
That's
screen.
silk screen printing, if you know that system.
Now I have here some of the stencils, and I can see them. I can see that they're clearly marked.
Yeah.
And they're marked with scriptures, obviously. And you used to take these in.
We used to take this in. We made these stencils in Norway because the equipment in Russia is not good enough. This emulsion is not good enough. So we had to make them in
Who
Norway.
made these for you?
In my company made these.
Your company made them. Now, all right then. How many did you take in at the time of these?
This is made in sheet. That is two sides.
Yeah.
And we made 30 sheets of these.
Yeah.
For every person who went in. And it could be 3, 4, 5 persons who took this in.
But you couldn't take these. You couldn't take these in your hand hand luggage. How did you get them in then?
We put them in a jacket in the back on a jacket. We sew them in the jacket.
So you take the lining out.
We took right.
And then you'd sew these in.
That's right.
And then put the lining back.
Correct. And
who did that for you then?
That was a tailor in a company we had contact with in Norway.
And he did it.
He did it.
Right. You took these in. Now then, the idea was to have printing presses or something like that. Now those had to be put on a frame.
That's right.
Like that. And that was what they used. How did you tighten that? How did you tighten that from that? How did you do that?
This is, you see, it's...
Yeah, like a drum.
This is like a drum. It has to be this way because you put the ink here.
Yeah.
And squeeze it this way.
Yeah.
And the ink will go through this this open things.
Yeah.
Here
Through the
is-
stencil.
This is the stencil,
Yeah.
and there the paper will be like
Yeah. And
this.
And they do it.
example.
Would they do it with a roller?
Not with a squeeze, with a
With a
rubber
squeeze thing.
squeeze. Yes.
Okay, I can understand that. Now, if you were taking printing presses in, why didn't you do something with electric printed press? They'd have turned out more Bibles and they'd have turned them out quickly. Why not that?
You see, there is offset presses was running on in Soviet Union.
Yes.
Many.
Yeah.
And they were discovered because they used electricity. There was a sound when you start this printing press to run,
Yeah.
and they were going faster. You can hear a sound of that one. The walls are listening also.
I know.
And KGB, they were outside these walls,
And
and
would
they
they-
came in and
You were in trouble.
They were in trouble.
Would they could check, what you're saying is they could check the electric meters and wonder how we were using so much
that's
electricity.
right. And when the controller came
Yeah.
to see how much electricity he had used, then he understood that here is something else than the
Yeah.
ordinary thing.
Yeah.
So he reported for KGB, and KGB came and arrested arrested the people.
Did they? Oh,
And all of them get 3, 4, 5 years in jail
did they?
for that.
Now, can you tell me how many printing presses do you think were built in that particular way?
When before the Glasnost and Perestroika came, it was about 150 printing press running in Soviet Union.
And
different places,
Different places, but all underground.
of course, all underground. It was 20 people who was engaged in one printing press.
Yes.
Some for printing, some for binding, some for to buy paper,
Yeah.
and so on.
So they were able to buy paper for themselves.
They could buy some few sheets of paper in this ordinary
Yeah.
size.
Yeah.
So a bunch of that was no. If you bought a lot, as you couldn't.
Yeah.
But then they also
They would be
were
suspicious.
right?
Right. I can understand all that. How many Bibles do you think they printed through that?
I have the
process.
numbers from preachers in Soviet Union. They told me that it's about 1 million Bible was printed in this method.
Was there? Now, I tell you something that interests me. You told me there were underground churches and all that sort of thing. Where did they meet? Did they meet in houses or what?
Sometimes they meet in houses, but usually they meet in the forest.
Did they?
Yeah.
What number of people could meet together like that in a forest? Because they were running a risk.
It depends of the church, of course, but it's about 50 to up to 300
Would
people
it?
in one church.
Ah.
So in the Moscow area, for example, there was a lot of churches because that church was big, so they had to split up and go to different.
So there were lots
places.
of underground churches.
Oh, it was thousands of underground
there?
churches in Russia.
Now, I want to move on, because we're getting near the end of our time, to a couple of human stories. There was that couple, a man, he was a director of a large business, about 5,000 employees in Russia, and he and his wife wanted to be baptized.
Yes. They had,
Tell me about that baptismal service.
They had recently been Christians.
Yes.
They read the Bible.
Yeah.
They like to follow the scripture and the command from Jesus, and they like to be baptized. And I came that evening when they should have this baptismal service.
Yeah.
That was very late. I came 11 o'clock in the evening, and I was taken up, and they prepared this baptismal service. And that was the 3rd of December in 1983.
It'd be cold in December in
And
Russia.
It was 12. It was 12 degrees below. And we were taken from this apartment
Yeah.
out into the forest. And they parked their cars. It was a lot of people. It was 3 cars, and we were in a little Lada. We were about 8 people.
Yeah.
So you know.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that I took part in this. So I was stamping my feet to the ground
Yes.
to
To make sure that you...
make sure that I was there. And they went to the car,
Yeah.
opened the booth,
Yeah.
and took out a picker
Pick guy.
and
Shovel, a spade.
a spade,
Yeah.
and make a hole in the ice and the river.
Yeah. 12
then-
degrees under.
And then they baptized this. And the first question who came up, are you willing to follow Christ wherever? If there's to Siberia, in prison, or whatever. And they answered, yes, we are. And 2 months after this baptismal service, he was arrested and was in prison for 3 years.
Was he? Terrific, isn't it? It makes you realize how easy we have things in the West, doesn't
We
it?
do not know anything about that kind of conditions.
No, we don't. There's one other little story that I'd like you to tell me about, of the lady who was on trial and her 5 children were in the place with her.
Yes.
What happened?
Maria.
Yeah, Maria.
She had 5 children. She teach her children about God.
Yeah.
And KGB came and arrested her. And when the trial came up, the children were sitting on the row, in the first row,
Yeah.
and the judge said that you can go free here together with your children. That way, if you promise never to talk about God any longer.
Is that
Never
right?
teach your children. Or you can go that way to the jail for 3 years. And she was standing up and said, I can never refuse God.
Did she?
I will always teach my children about God and His love. So she was sentenced for I think she received 5 years in jail.
God.
And the children were standing there and shouting mother, crying, shouting mother, mother. And she went that way and
To the prison.
to the prison.
And what happened to the children?
The children, they were put into the children home.
Were they? Now, there came a time when you got into trouble in Russia, real trouble, and you refused
Really.
entry. You
Really,
couldn't-
and they wrote about this in the Pravda, this newspaper.
Yeah,
And the Christians had contact with a German person.
yeah,
So they wrote about this German person as a devil
yes,
from Germany.
yes.
And
The government did, or the newspaper did.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And again, they wrote, the devil he came back again in the form of Hans Myrvold from Norway. So
you changed from an angel to a devil. So for the first time in my life, no, I better not. Yes, I will. First time in my life, I'm interviewing the devil.
Okay.
Okay. All right then. Well, Hans, our time is completely gone. It's been terrific to talk to you. I'd like to talk to you about some other things. But anyway, thanks ever so much for giving the time to talk to me today. And you and Cinema, enjoy the rest of your holiday.
thank you very much.
And we'll be praying for you.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
Bless.
Thanks for being with us today. And I'm sure you'll agree that you've heard a story of faith and of courage. The story of a man who was prepared to go to the utmost in order to carry out what he felt was God's purpose for his life. And now that Hans is going into China in the same sort of way, we can not only pray for the Christians in Russia, but we can pray for the Christians in China and for Hans' ministry in particular. My thanks not only to Hans today, but my thanks to the camera crew again for their help, and to you, the listeners, for taking the time to just let us come into your home once more. So this is Ron Jones saying goodbye for this time, and may God richly bless you and all who you love.
Traveling man, you keep on traveling on the road, going through life all on your own. Sometimes you must get